Hey everybody, welcome to another video review. So this will be segment 4, is it? I guess, yeah. We'll make a segment 4, one segment for each of the clans of the Blood Rage board game and the miniatures painted by Top Miniatures. So without further ado, since we've done a couple of these already, let's showcase the clan leader. So this is the Wolf clan. And one of the things I really like about the art design of these Blood Rage miniatures is that each of the clans have a very sort of distinct identity and a distinct culture. And so we did the Ram clan, and you can kind of see with the Ram clan their their claim to fame, the way they're designed, very heavily armored, kind of reminds you of dwarves, actually. That's sort of their identity. And then we did the Wild Boar, where there's a kind of more charging, aggressive. The miniatures are running at you. And with the Raven, they're more like the sort of the classic knights of the Norse mythology, patterned after Odin himself, and they all have their raven motif. And so when you think about Wolf, I think, at least for me, I think about sort of like this sort of feral beast, snarling, filled with, just rage. And I think that they designed the warriors from the Wolf clan, really nicely to kind of give you that impression. So here is the clan leader, of course. Let's get a little bit closer. We have the black turntable to put the details out. So again, you can see a very nice space, themed, along with all of the miniature warriors, at least. They all looks like they're coming from the same battlefield, so to speak. So here he is in the front. You can see him screaming. Look at the hair and his sort of the bushy sideburns, which I think is pretty cute. It's pretty cool. And then turning back, you can see the wolf pelt and the hint of the actual head of the wolf. And as you can see, as befitting their wild nature, they don't have any shoes. They're barefoot. Their color is red. Get a nice close-up of the detailing of the hair. They kind of remind me almost of like a Scottish inspiration, because of the way it almost looks like kilts, right? Some of their armor, and especially kind of their hair. Let's see some of the jewelry. He has an ankle bracelet, which is pretty cool. And you see all the lovely little metallic details that, Amina put into this. His little necklace, the leather. And of course, I would be remiss not to really focus, if I can, on the totem. It's a beautiful wolf's head totem. And the feathers. Turn around the back. Again, really beautiful work. Really, really nice. Okay, so that's the clan leader. I'm gonna put him aside. Let's start looking at all the different warriors. So this is the type A, or type 1, however you want to do it. Nice space, again, just like all the other bases. So you can see why modification had to be made for the trays. They built up the base to such an extent that it just would have been impossible to put them in with the base separators. You would have damaged the base significantly, chipped it. So here he is. All of them are sort of bald with their mohawks and sideburns. And again, it kind of reminds me of like Braveheart almost. Like these look like warriors that would fit in very nicely with some of the Braveheart battle scenes, right? So I think that might be their inspiration, even though again all of this is supposed to be from Norse mythology. The art design reminds me again of those Scottish warriors from Braveheart. He's got a knife in one hand, sort of holding it with the point down in a sense, backhanding it, and then he has a battle axe, and then of course the belt buckle with the wolf's insignia, a lot of metal jewelry and armor. And then he has blonde hair, this one, and then we'll slowly rotate him. Look at the back, very nicely done. Excellent. Okay, so that's the first warrior. Let's take a look at the second one. And again, as you can see, a little bit different coloration. It would have been a lot easier, of course, for the painter, for Mina, to just basically carbon copy 4 at a time, but I had to make life a little bit more difficult for her, requesting that they all have little tiny touches of individuality to make you feel like maybe they were all brothers or warriors of the same clan, certainly, but not that they were doppelgangers. I think she did a great job adding just enough variety to make you feel like they're different, maybe soldiers, but that they all also very clearly come from the same clan. Take a look at the detail of the face, the shading of the armor, the silver. So there you go. That's 2 of them. Here's the third. You can see this one's a little bit darker. Again, you can see sometimes they're so small, you can see even little tiny bits of lint that get stuck here, because again, all of these are sealed with a varnish to protect the paint, to let you handle it. And one of the side effects of the varnish is it can make the pieces a little bit sticky. But again, that's a small price to pay for the protection afforded to the miniatures by that coating. And last but not least, the last warrior coming up. And he's got dark hair versus the blonde hair of the others. We're getting great detailing of the armor. They're all barefoot, as you can see. They're all magnetized, as you can see. I put a pretty big magnet. This is 1/2 inch by about 1.6, 1.7 millimeters thick. Inches, it would be 1/16 of an inch thick. And that extra magnet at the center is what really holds this pretty nicely on the magnetic paper. Of course, one of the side effects is that if all of them have those big pieces of magnets, you can see that there is a little bit of repulsion. See, just because, of course, the magnets are repelling each other away. So that's something that may be a little bit awkward if you're playing it on the board game, because there's only so much spaces, and if there's too many warriors fighting over a particular province, these magnets may come into play and kind of prevent them from getting too close together. But if they're able to even come this close like that, I think it's typically it is good enough. We'll just call this personal space, right? They all need to have their little personal space, so to speak. So they can still cluster pretty closely together and not be too awkward. For instance, the leader here has his home magnet as well, and they'll move them around. So I think that's pretty cool. You can actually pretend to be fighting, you can actually have them move across the battlefield like this using the magnets. So anyways, being a little bit silly here. But yeah, there is no perfect solution. If you want to have magnets that are strong enough to have these things protected while they're in their tray, then you do have to understand that the bigger magnets will exert attraction and repulsion depending on your polarity. Let's move to the second warrior type, shall we? This is a nice one. This is 2 spears, a double spear, and a beautiful shield. Take a look at the base again. Don't ever want to take the base for granted, because they did so much work. I mean, imagine how much work it takes to apply this and paint it, and then to again cut the miniature off, and then have to re-glue the miniature and all of that. I mean, it is a lot of work. And so we take it for granted because, of course, they're all similarly themed. But I do want to, again, get a little bit of a close-up to see kind of the nice texturing and stuff like that. Beautiful shield, gold and silver along with wood. Look at the detail work on the wood. It really makes you think that this is actually a little piece of wood there. So very nice job. With that, you have the spears. It's going to be a little bit bent. And here, of course, they're barefoot. The barefoot part, I think, is one of the key things that separate the wolf clan from the other clans. But he is a lot more armored. He's actually wearing full armor. Reminds me of the Greeks, the Spartans, and then they have like a chain netting to protect their neck. So very nice, and you can see the big wolf's head. So they all have the wolf's head incorporated with their furs. That's where they make their furs, is from the pelts of the wolves. Here's his arms with the musculature. So this is the spear warrior, so to speak. Again, beautifully done. All right, let's get number 2 up here. This one has no stone work on the base, basically dirt and grass. Here you go again. So next to the Raven clan, I do think that the Wolf clan is one of the hardest to put in the tray, because again, you have 4 soldiers with long spears, and you have another 4 soldiers whose weapons are sort of spread apart, and it's very tight, very tricky to get all of them together again without too much paint rubbing opportunities, trying to give each one, again, the space that they deserve. Hope you can sort of appreciate all the beautiful detailing of the paint that went into this. I don't know if I mentioned it on an earlier video, because I've done so many, and I have some stuff in, I do things in between, but I had messaged Soren, and he'd shown some of these clips to the painter, and he told me that I was speculating that a lot of this was done under magnifying glass or whatever. And believe it or not, for her, she does a lot of the work actually without magnifying glass. She's able to basically freehand some of this with a naked eye, which to me is just completely mind-blowing, because I'm using like a high definition camera on my iPhone to capture some of the detail, and that's just to get close enough to capture it and sort of try to appreciate it. So for her to be able to actually paint this with a naked eye is pretty, again, phenomenal, you know. And that's not something that's, I think, very common. A lot of miniature painters, professionals, I bet, do a lot of that work under magnification, and it's part of their workstation, I would think. So for her to be able to accomplish this, again, freehand, without magnification, is you know, just spectacular. Okay, there we go. As you can see, they're all magnetized, and they're repelling each other a little bit. Last but not least, our last spear warrior. Here we go. These are very, very good quality, by the way, for plastic miniatures. I think a lot of people equate the best quality works with resin, which is always true. But you know, as far as plastic, sometimes again the casting can be a little bit soft, the details could be lost. But I think you'll agree when you say, when I show you that these particular plastic castings are fantastically detailed, and the painter Mina did an amazing job sort of bringing out all of that detail. You know, look at the pants; it really looks like, you know, like cloth with the ropes sewn along it. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, let's get to the shamans. I don't know what I call. I think the originals, they're mystics, right? The Mystics of Midgard is the original expansion, but then they also refer to as shamans. So this is definitely, I think, my favorite mystic design. Look at that. He's got a gigantic wolf as a breastplate. You know, just like such an amazing pose. You know, beautiful detailing work. Spread eagled, feet spread eagled apart. Nice detail on the head. But yeah, that wolf breastplate really makes this miniature for me. My favorite design, I think, of all of the mystics. I mean, he looks really badass for sure. Kind of love how the wolf motif is illustrated, and then I think he's the only one that actually has a full-on boots. You see that? So again, interesting. And then his brother. Another great paint job, but you can see the coloration is very, very different. Again, great texturing. Really cool. And you can kind of take a look at the two of them side by side, but not too close, right, guys? Let me get some personal space. So there you go. Here's our two mystics. And last but not least, we have our ship. Again, not much to say about these guys. They're all painted exactly the same, except the color of the sails, of course. Nicely glossed. And again, you can see that they're magnetized here as well, 3 different magnets. And the player tokens. This is one of my favorite player tokens as well. So fierce. Look at the wolf's head right here. It looks like a werewolf, huh? You got the tongue hanging out. Get the fangs. Look at the eyes. Love it. So yeah, definitely one of my favorite clans. One of my favorite art designs. beautifully done. I mean, this is a legacy level paint job, and then they did seal it with enough of, I think varnish or lacquer to protect it, that you can feel good about, like playing it. You can feel good, and you don't have to. I mean, you don't want to, of course, I don't know, eat like a sloppy snack with potato chips and grime and then touch them. You want to treat it with some respect, but if you have clean hands, you play it, as adults do, in a nice board game setting, you treat it with the respect it deserves. There doesn't need to be any fear of handling it. I like the fact that even though it's again, a legacy paint job, you're still allowed to, to handle it, have fun with it, enjoy it. It's meant to be enjoyed, meant to be played with. These are miniatures after all, and I'm sort of showcasing it on YouTube just so I can always admire the quality of the paint job whenever I want, and I don't have to always pick it up. I think this way you can definitely admire it from afar without having to handle it too much, to appreciate that detail work. Okay, so those are the player tokens. Let's take a look at the different types of soldiers. So getting everything ready. I'll choose this guy right here, and of course the clan chief. And then we're gonna put the unpainted versions behind them so we can have some sort of reference to see the amazing job again that Nina did. Okay, so again, without making them too close to each other, this is the Wolf Clan. Our leader right here, soldier, mystic. Let's dive a little bit deeper. Again, just kind of comparing the unpainted version with the painted version here. So hopefully you can see how much work went into taking the right and turn it into the left. You can clearly see that the feet are attached to this base plastic, the simple plastic base, and to turn the base into that, hopefully you also get more of an appreciation for that as well. Okay. Look at the lack of detail of the sword. Look at the sword there. Just compare the two. And of course, taking the time to straighten out the totem poles. All right, very good. Here's again, side-by-side comparison. Unpainted versus the masterpiece on the left. Again, I just think it's really instructive to show this when I can, so you have an appreciation. What a massive difference, playing with a painted miniature is to the base unpainted plastic version. You can argue you're, almost gives you such a different feeling, it's such a more epic feeling when you're playing with this guy right here. Here's our soldier right here. See, when it's unpainted, it just sort of blends into this lump of plastic. You can't really see anything at all, That's why, again, you need the red base to let you know whose warrior it is. But when you see this compared to the two, there's no question that that's from the wolf, no question. And then we end with the Mystics. This one, I think we can actually, there's only 2 of them, we can actually put that in the center. Look at that. But the one thing you definitely can appreciate for the unpainted version is the detailing. You know, I mean, it's very, very sharp detailing. And that's sort of like the foundation for the painter to, you know, put her craft and her art, is at least the detail is there. And you just have to bring it out with the paint. But, you know, again, so striking when you look at the finished product versus the unpainted version. Staggering, really. Look at that. You can see that even the cloak has different texture, a little bit different color. All right, so that's the Wolf Clan for you. I hope you enjoyed that showcase. And next time, or the next one will be the Bear Clan. Hopefully you'll enjoy that as well. And that'll be segment 5. So until next time, do take care.